Welcome to the Cherry Lounge podcast. I am your host, Tanisha Cherry, and in this episode, we have a special guest, our first guest. Her name is Carly, also known as @YourGirlCarly on pretty much all social media platforms. Am I right?
You are right.
Oh my God, you're so lucky for that because literally my username is different on every platform because every platform doesn't want me to be great. It's really upsetting, but one day, one day
My
when I'm famous.
one day you can claim them. My old username, like K is for Carly, I think
Mhm,
that might have been taken on certain areas. I wasn't not 100% sure, but when I decided to switch to Your Girl Carly, which was literally only last year,
mhm.
I made sure I got it on literally everything the day that I decided to switch.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, you lucky girl. And here I am just trying to use my name. God damn.
See, yeah, my last name is really hard, so I never use it for anything. So I just Carly Carly with a K already and a Y. People are like, "Huh?" So I was like, I can't give them the full name. They're going to be like, "I don't know how to do this." So,
This is too much. What were your parents thinking? Why are you making it hard for us?
literally. And it's really actually not that hard. Like my last name literally sounds exactly like it's spelled. People are just like, "Oh my god, the K's blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Okay, well,
It actually
sorry."
does. I feel like the spelling of your last name is actually pretty simple. Maybe like people get like a letter off, either they'll add or take away, but it's pretty easy. It's very
It is
straightforward.
it's pretty easy, but everybody adds like an NKI on the end of it. And I was like, there's literally no I on the end of it. The
They're
the N is
dyslexic.
in the middle. Like, what do you
They're
what?
dyslexic. I don't know what it is. People are just strained. They're used to the Johnsons and the Williams. And you know what? We like special and we are special. So y'all got to get
Literally.
used to it.
Absolutely.
Um, so Carly is our first guest on our podcast, and I'm really happy because it's an authentic collaboration. I recently, actually just a few days ago, recorded an episode on her podcast, Hey Bitches.
Mhm.
So if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe, give her 5 stars and a review. And, make sure you go show her some love over there and also check out that episode we recorded. Did you already title it?
um, Not yet.
Okay, well,
I
I'll just put the notes in here
Yeah, we'll
in the show
see.
notes.
We'll see. I find I always actually title them after because I have an idea of what it's going to be going into the episode, but then
Yeah.
we like veer off on 5,000 different like topics and I'm like, "Ooh, that'd be kind of good in the title." So, that's how I get all of my like good titles.
I feel like most people do that. And whereas like me starting out, I think of the title name first so that I can kind of stay on course with what I need to talk about in that episode.
See, and like yeah, I try to do that too. I name them all out by titles and what I think I'm going to talk about, but then when I actually have the conversation, there's just some things that I say that I'm like that is the title.
No, that's so true because literally our podcast that we recorded was like
It
it
had
veered off.
it had so many different prongs to it.
It was so funny. I love
It
it.
was a
You
good
have to
podcast though.
It was. Thank you so much for having me. So we'll definitely add the link to that in the show notes once that's all posted and available. So thank you again for
Absolutely.
having me on. So
Thanks for having me
Carly,
on.
thank you. Well, you're on because you're basically the reason I have this podcast.
Literally. Don't even get me started.
No, we're not even gonna get started. If you wanna hear all about that, you guys need to go listen to Carly's episode.
Ugh.
Oh my gosh, the stress and abuse that she put me through.
The
Honestly, I
stress
need to
and
call the
abuse that
police.
you put me through.
No, I need to call the police on you, okay? Because it's a
Literally.
crime.
The
So,
real crime is how long you took to make this podcast.
leave me alone, okay? Y'all see? She's already starting on me. You know what? I don't have time for this, okay? Let's move on. So, me and Carly are friends. We met about a year ago, and we've been inseparable is it inseparable? Yeah,
Yes.
inseparable online ever since. Because she actually
Yeah.
doesn't live in Calgary. She lives in Edmonton, but she does come down here sometimes to visit and,
Mhm.
pretend she's a Calgarian, and we would love for her to become one, but,
Maybe
you know,
soon. We don't know.
soon, cross fingers, God willing.
Uh-huh.
Um, she's amazing. She's an influencer. She started out blogging a few years ago. She's amazing on TikTok. She also has a YouTube channel and her own podcast. But yeah, tell the people about yourself. What have you been doing during
Um
quarantine? Give us the tea.
During quarantine. Well, I mean, all of those things are correct. I am a full time influencer. I actually lost my
Yes.
corporate job a year ago and went into influencer stuff full time. So now I've been doing that. I've been doing this though, like for 6 years.
Hmm.
And yeah, during quarantine, I've basically just been putting in work. I my first couple weeks of quarantine, I judged my quarantine by how many days I didn't cry.
What? You were crying?
Oh, every day. My first week of quarantine, I cried every single day.
Why? And that's so funny because I was just about to ask you, how do you feel quarantine has been different than what you were doing before because you were already
Oh
a
my
full-time
god.
influencer? Tell us about that. I can't believe you were crying. You know, I think I did see you tweet that, and I was like, "I don't think she's serious."
No, I'm dead serious. I literally started a Twitter thread of the days that I, like, did not
Oh,
cry.
no. What was it about that was getting you so emotional?
Well, I don't it's just different. So, I mean, I graduated this year as well. So,
Mhm,
when we went into quarantine, it was, like, the last month and a half before my last semester of my university degree. So, I was like,
mhm,
Amazing, love that for me." So that was stressful. And the thing is I already work from home, which people are like, yeah, cool, you work from home. Like, it's not that different. But
mhm,
I like really enjoyed the times that I was outside of my house. Cause like, I
mhm,
mean, I would work from home basically all day. I would have one class a day for a max of an hour and a half. So I'd spend like 2 hours max, including travel time, like outside of my house a day
mhm,
basically in school, but it's like so different. It's not like I even talked to anybody. I was just like I went to school, went to class, left, that was it. And it was just so different. Like my routine was literally like wake up, sit in my home office all damn day,
mhm.
and that's it. And like before I redid my office, it was very
Yeah.
like cramped and stuffy and I was just like I hate it in here. It was just a lot. And like a lot of the days too, if I had something I really, really needed to do, this is like pre quarantine, I would
Mhm,
go to a coffee shop and crush it out because what a lot of people don't tell you is like when you have a home office or you work from home and you get too comfortable working on like work stuff in your home spaces, it kind of
mhm.
can work backwards for you. So like
Yeah.
I'm in my office, but I'm like, oh, but I could be just searching for Amazon shit. And then you just like don't work versus when you're in like an unfamiliar type of place, you're more inclined to do the work because you're just like not in somewhere that's comfortable. So you only do what you came there to do. So
Exactly. That's
trying to,
actually really
yeah.
true. I always wonder about people that work in, coffee shops because 'cause I'm like, "I can't do it, I can't get comfortable," but I guess that's the purpose that, you're just 100% focused on the task at hand, so that is
Yes.
interesting.
I don't think I could like I
Oh,
wouldn't be able to replace a coffee shop with my office, but like I only go when I really have shit to do.
yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
understandable. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, girl.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now quarantine has been a lot better. You've created a new routine in this new normal that we're living in.
Yeah, it's been a lot better. I mean, I got a new office, which has been really nice and kind of has made the space like new and makes me
Mhm.
want to work more. I also did like actual practical things. So, like, I have adult ADHD. So, I had to go to my doctor and get like a new prescription and all that kind of stuff because I was like, I'm at home and now I'm distracted by so many other things and I
Yeah.
just can't focus. So, I had to go and do that. And at one point too, I was like making my Alexa remind me every hour to drink water because I was just like I
Oh
was
my
so
gosh.
out of routine. It was so bad,
I
but
have Alexa doing that too. Like, Alexa is if you don't have an Echo Dot, like, you need one. Carly's actually the person that I asked before I got mine.
I bullied her into getting one of them too.
Yeah, and honestly, it's the best thing ever. Like, I just feel like my life is on track, and I did it during quarantine, and it's
Mhm.
amazing. Like,
I love
everything. I'm
it.
like it is. I'm like, "Remind me to drink water, remind me to call Carly at this time, remind me to go for a walk," and it's just amazing because, honestly, sometimes people can say, like, "Well, why don't you just put a reminder on your phone?"
It's
Yeah,
not the
that's fine,
same.
like, it's not the same. You see it and you put it down.
Mhm.
So I love the Alexa app. I feel like during quarantine, when I first started out, I was just not productive at all because I also, as the people listening know, I work full time as well as doing the influencer stuff. So to be working from home by every other week, because that's what we've been rotating in my office, it was really challenging because I would just move from the bedroom to the living room and just camp out there with my laptop, heating up on my legs, and just sit there for the next 8 hours. I wouldn't even take my lunch breaks. It was a hot mess. But once I
Mhm.
got to like week 2 of quarantine of working at home, I started like, doing little 15-minute workouts, going for walks, maybe going to my local grocery store to pick up like something healthy to eat for lunch. After doing it, I started creating a new routine and now I'm enjoying it. I was like, I actually like working from home. Like, I feel like it's just opened a new appreciation for my apartment and even the neighborhood that I work in because I've also been doing a lot of walking lately, just walking everywhere, walking to go do groceries, walking to restaurants, and these aren't like easy walks. Like some of them are like 30 minutes. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, "Ah, who cares?" Like, just get out there, get some fresh air, see some people, some scenery, keep your distance, but it's been nice. I have a new appreciation for nature, sorta.
Yeah, I definitely I've started walking a little bit more. I find that's kind of where my downfall is. Like I'll get into these like vortexes where
Mhm,
I just like crush workout and I'm just like, "Oh." And I just like push myself because at the end of the day like the only person that's going to get shit done is me. So,
exactly.
I'm trying to do a walk before I start work now. Like I'll do a podcast walk and it's only like 20 minutes and it's just around my block, but I feel a
Mhm,
lot better. And then I do one like probably around 2-ish p.m.
mhm,
just around my block again, just as like a mental reset and getting out of my house because I've been finding that I kind of crave the outdoors a little bit more. Like I've been opening all the windows in our house and all this kind of stuff,
same.
and I just like need that fresh kind of feeling. So now I've been going on walks more, which I probably should have maybe done earlier in quarantine, but here we are.
Like our cardio plan that we were supposed to do, I'm never gonna let you forget about that.
No, literally. I
I
fucking
mean
hate cardio. I don't even know why I agreed to that.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, "Why did she even say this?" Me and Carly were like, "Okay, we're gonna start doing some more wellness stuff. Like, let's try to do cardio like 4 or 5 times a week. We'll hold each other accountable." And like, I think we both did like one, and then I'd be doing them, and I'd be like messaging her every day, like, "Did you do your cardio yet? Did you do your cardio yet?" And she's like, "Yeah, girl, uh-huh." She's like, "Awesome, you're such a great motivator," but she wasn't doing it.
I wasn't doing it.
And then we just stop, and I'm like, "Okay, we have to find something else," because that's the biggest thing when you're making any sort of changes. You have to start with what's natural to you. So
Mhm.
that was not natural for either one of us, which is probably why I fell off. But the walking isn't
I
necessarily
can do the
natural, but it's
walking.
something that I don't mind. Yeah, the walking I don't mind. Like it's nothing strenuous. It's easy, and I get to look at pretty houses. And like I live downtown, and then I also live next to the next community is like an affluent neighborhood. So
Mhm.
the houses are amazing, and sorry, the houses are amazing, so I always walk through there with either myself or a friend, and I get to see all the different houses, and like, I sit here and like manifest and think of, okay, if I were to buy a house over here, like I do this fence, I wouldn't do this driveway, this color, this house is ugly, it's too modern, and my imagination starts running wild, and I just start thinking of like positive things. So I like the walking. The walking is the
I
bomb.
love the walking. I love the walking. I throw on
Hmm.
a podcast. I just like think about my life, kind of whatever like my
Hmm.
goals are. Like recently I've been listening to podcasting on like capital investment and seed funding.
Oh, that's so
And
good.
so I just like walk around because it's something I like don't understand. So
Same.
something about me is if I don't understand it, like I will go so ham on understanding it. Like when I started my clothing line, I
Hmm.
literally applied to like fashion schools.
Oh,
I was
did
like,
you?
literally, yeah, I got into
Like,
Parsons.
fit him? Oh, did you? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And I obviously didn't fucking do it because I don't love fashion enough to go to Parsons for another 4 years. But I did that because I was like, okay, I got to know all the things. And
Mhm,
it's not to say that you have to do it like that. It's just like that is just me.
mhm. No,
I
I'm
just
like
am a
that
psycho
too.
for that.
I really wanna know what I'm talking about and what I'm doing. I just don't like throwing my name on stuff, and I feel like you're the same kind of person, so I
I'm
think
the
that
same,
aligns with
yeah,
your personality.
100%. I was having a conversation about the clothing line with someone, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna hold all of the inventory in your house, which is a lot. It's like 600 plus units of inventory."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like,
Mhm.
"Don't you want to just do a fulfillment center?" And I was like, "Eventually,
No.
yeah, but like I want to do everything once, you
You
know?"
do because you know what? The best CEOs and business older owners are people that know how to do every role because then you can actually train people what your expectations are,
Mhm.
and it decreases the trial and errors that you're going to have to go through when you expand. So the way you're doing it is honestly the best way.
It's stressful, but I mean, I'm doing it.
You're doing it, girl. You are. So, Carly and I were both guests recently on our friend Kaylee's podcast, Self Care Sundays. And we are
Mhm.
speaking about how white people can be better allies to us. Because obviously, we all are aware that we're in the middle of a civil rights movement, the
Mhm.
biggest in history. And right now, I thought it would be awesome for me and Carly to record this episode because we're starting to see a decrease in reshares and posts, but we're also starting to see a huge increase in people sharing their personal experiences of racism in the workplace and
Uh-huh.
also calling people out in all industries by name and social media handles. So
Mhm.
that's what we're going to be diving into. Overall, what are your thoughts on that?
On, like, everything as a whole?
No, what are your thoughts on the call outs, like, the increase of calls? Because like, our
Oh,
DMs, we're always
boy.
sending each other like, "Girl, did you see this?"
Uh-huh,
Like, "Oh my
literally. I
gosh."
literally, like, changed my Instagram bio to queen of callouts for a cause because I am reckless for the callouts.
You are, and it's so funny because sometimes I'll send them to you, and I'll be like, "Wow, this is Carly level of savage."
Yeah, yeah. I have no shame in a call out. Literally to the point where my aunt called me. She works in insurance, and she was like, "Hey, like I think you should get insurance just in case you get sued." I was like, "Uh,
What?
okay." I mean, it's
Why w
fair.
That's true, I guess, and you know what? Now's the time that brands may start to take action on that. That's definitely something I do wanna bring up later in the episode, some interesting things I found that brands have been doing to try to, I guess, protect themselves, but not
Mhm.
really.
Mhm.
So, let's start with the
I
food.
have some
Oh, go
tea
ahead.
on that one though because I mean, I don't I guess I never said it, but, like,
Ooh.
I have a law minor, right? So, like,
Yes,
the
you
ty
do.
the things that we were talking about, like NDAs and, like, all that kinda stuff, I do have, like, a
Mhm.
little bit of
Oh my gosh,
a couple
perfect.
things to
See?
say.
You're the perfect person to speak to about that. So let's start with the first thing that we saw. So earlier this week, I would say, we saw Canadian influencer Sasha Exter share on her experience with Jessica Mulroney,
Mhm.
which has resulted in Jessica losing all her jobs. If you're like me and you're not familiar with who Jessica was prior to the situation, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know who she was.
All
She
I knew about
is
her is, like, she was Ben Mulroney's wife, like, that's it.
Exactly, and he's like the Ryan Seacrest of Canada pretty much on television, like,
Mhm.
that's who you can equate to him to if you're an American listener. So, that's her husband, and he is also the son of a former prime minister, so he comes from a very affluent political family here in Canada. You know, he travels in those circles. So, she's a somebody, she's important,
Mhm.
in her world. And Sasha is a Black influencer. She's been a blogger for over a decade now. I've been following Sasha for a while. Her brand is very much about self care and wellness and fitness. She's an amazing mother. She's a single mom, and pretty much what happened was, I guess her and Jessica were acquaintances back in the day, or friends, one of the two.
Mhm.
They have since don't have a relationship for quite a bit of time. And Sasha, like a lot of influencers like me and Carly, has pretty much been talking about the fact that a lot of our white counterparts in this space have not been speaking out publicly. So
Mhm.
this was at the time, like when we were starting to, talk about the whole George Floyd murder and systematic racism, a lot of us noticed that our peers were very hush hush. And like us, Sasha went on her platform to basically express her disappointment in that. And she also followed up later on saying, I think it's interesting that people are posting these squares, the infamous black squares, in quotes,
Mhm.
but we're not really seeing them actually educate their audience or take accountability for their personal actions or just really come on camera and share their piece or say that they actually, support us and are going to make changes going forward. So she shared that. And to me, I think that's fair. Everything she's saying, it's very general. It doesn't appear that she's really speaking to anyone in particular, but just things that she's seeing on social media. So Sasha posted those videos on her Instagram stories, and I guess Jessica reached out to her personally because she felt that they were subliminal messages to her.
Mhm.
That then proceeded into a series of text messages between them two where Jessica said stuff like, your voice doesn't matter. And I'm going to speak to brands and let them know that you're bullying people into speaking up and what you're doing behind the scenes, and a bunch of threats. I know to some people that doesn't seem like a threat, but it is because she's a full time influencer. She's a single mom, and this is how she makes her money and sustains her lifestyle and takes care of her child. So to
Mhm.
say that you're going to speak to brands and you're a person of affluence
Mhm.
and you travel in the same circles as I do, a lot of these brand owners and PR companies, you have relationships with them. That is a huge that's a huge deal. You know, people without even investigating the situation, because you are a white woman, you're utilizing your privilege to sit here and almost basically take money out my pockets. So that created a lot of stress on Sasha. So she came out the other day and created an IGTV story and shared this. And like Instagram, Twitter, like the whole thing just went viral. And it resulted in Jessica then commenting on Sasha's video, apologizing, not really taking accountability for her actions. She kind of glossed over it, saying, like, you know, I said a lot of things that I shouldn't have said, and I'm sorry for this, and I'm going to learn from this. And I guess that was her way of trying to jump in ahead of it.
Mhm.
Then she went into Sasha's DMs and basically threatened her with a lawsuit. Did you see that screenshot? It said like liable suit.
Literally, it said liable, like Liable instead of libel, which is the correct legal term. I was like, "This dumb hoe."
And I'm just
I
like,
love
"Ugh,
legal fuck ups like that because, like, I've been on my, receiving end, like, a local influencer here tried to sue me, like, last year,
what?
and
Okay, we gotta talk about that shit.
it's on a podcast episode of mine, but,
Okay, we got it. Yeah.
tried to sue me last year because I,
Oh
like,
my
called her out on her bullshit. Anyways, she tried to sue me, and I quote, "for defamation," and I was like, "I actually don't think you know what you're saying because it's
Defamation, sweetheart.
defamation." So, yeah, it was so dumb.
Like, when you're gonna come for people, the grammar police are on the sides waiting. You have to make sure that you sit here and articulate yourself
Especially
properly and
too,
spell
like,
things properly.
all of my law professors, they're like, spelling is everything in law. Like, you may not
Mhm.
think it, but if you submit a legal document and you have like incorrect grammar or errors, they will not take you seriously. How can
No.
they expect you to know the law if you can't even know the fucking difference between defamation, which is not a word, and defamation?
Like, "Sweetheart, proofread, like,
Literally.
spell check is
So
your friend." So
I
she did
loved
that in
that.
her DMs, and then Sasha screenshotted that, put it on her stories, and pretty much a bunch of people like Sasha, the last time I looked on that video, her comments were up to, like, 5,000 comments, and a
Dang.
number of it were people that were in support of her, and a lot of them, one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of this when I was talking about Jessica, she's also the best friend of Meghan Markle,
Hmm.
the Meghan Markle, part of the royal family, Meghan Markle, if you guys are still lost. But she's also best friends with her. So, you know, the British tabloid are not a fan of Meghan. So having Meghan's friend wrapped up into something like this, it's got on is it the Daily News? Is what the tabloid is?
Hmm.
Yes, they started reporting on it. So then people started going to Sasha's comments saying, like, why did you bring up Megan? Which I actually don't remember her saying Megan's name. Or maybe
Hmm.
she did, but Jessica brought her up first. Whatever. But, a lot of people that stand Megan were in the comments, basically telling people, like, "Don't attach her to the situation, has nothing to do with her, it's between Jessica and Sasha," and then people coming for Sasha. And then when you went to Jessica's page, Jessica was being shady. She was putting, like, subliminal Instagram stories like, "You guys don't know the truth, just wait," and people were in her comments, like, saying, "I stand with Sasha." I was one of those people.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Because I'm just like, I'm just not here for it. So what has transpired since is she has lost the brand collaborations. I believe the brand was Sweet Teas or Sweat Teas. I can't remember now,
I don't know.
but a clothing company in Toronto that sells like leisure wear. They have ended their partnership with her because people were tagging them in what happened, and I guess when this happened, they were supposed to be launching their collection in the next couple days. So that
Oh.
they're just like, nope, sorry, we're not even going to go forward with it. Which in my mind, I'm just like, what happened to all that inventory? That's that's crazy. And then the next day, I believe CTV put on all their social medias as well as Global have canceled her show and they
And
said they're
City
no
Line.
longer working. Yes, and City Line.
Good Morning
They've
America is the
canceled it.
only one who hasn't said anything as of right now.
Yeah, like I just feel like they just need to get with it because the other ones reacted very quickly, which I was very surprised by because normally they'll be like, we're investigating this and you won't maybe hear for like a week or a few days. But they were just like, oh, no, no, no. We're completely
I feel like
dissociating ourselves.
I agree. I feel like a lot of the American companies pull
Hmm.
the we're investigating, we're blah blah blah. The
Yes.
Canadian companies are like, absolutely not.
They're not used to this heat. They are not used to it, and they're just like, no, we're especially in this climate, no,
Mm-mm.
they're not. So how do you feel about them pulling the plug on her so quickly? And then do you think that there's anything that she can say? Because okay, so here about that. How about this? What did you think, first of all, about the response that she made saying that she's sorry about the disagreement between her and Sasha, using the word disagreement, and then offering Sasha the chance to use Jessica's Instagram page to speak about her experiences with racism and the current civil rights movement. What is your opinion on those
I
two things?
mean, my opinion, first of all, on the overall situation is
Mhm,
the same opinion that I hold from a lot of like typical influencers during this whole thing is that a lot of them either are sorry that they got caught and they're not
mhm,
actually sorry about the actions that they did during this whole situation,
mhm.
or they're literally just doing it to save face.
I agree.
I think that if Jess Mulrooney was actually as sorry as she's trying to portray that she is, there wouldn't have been a DM about libel. There wouldn't have been
Mhm.
these like subliminal messages. There wouldn't have been any of that shit. So I know people are probably like, okay, well, you can't hold a grudge forever and blah blah blah. And like
I hate those
I
people.
no 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 no
Like,
no no. No. I've got something to say about that because there's a few things. So I find for me personally, this is like I feel like this in personal relationships, online things that I'm just seeing, stuff like that. The response action tells you everything. So
it
for
does.
example, if she would have handled it, if Sasha would have come and said her thing and Jess would have, instead of being defensive and blah 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 and all that stuff, would have been like, you know what, you're right, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
Jessica.
XYZ,
Mhm,
did all these things, made like reparations, did all this stuff, like actually made like real relevant action towards making a better solution, I would have respected her more and maybe would have seen her actions as a positive change.
mhm,
Versus so many people get like defensive and are like, no, blah, blah, blah. And then they try to attack back. Like I had this happen with a local influencer here,
mhm,
and she tried like she made this whole thing about like me attacking her when it really wasn't about that. It was about the fact that like very much so in this situation, like these influencers were not posting or even like
mhm.
bringing any type of awareness, and then they were falling back on the, oh well, I'm not educated thing, which like I mean, we all know how I feel about that. I have an IGTV on my personal
It's
profile
not
for
an
that.
excuse, you
It's
guys.
not an excuse. So I feel like if Jess Mulrooney would have handled it where she would have taken accountability for it, made the appropriate changes in the actions, then I would believe her more now. However, she didn't do any of those things, and it's pretty clear that she actually doesn't give a fuck and she's only trying to save face.
100%. She doesn't give a fuck because the fact that you did this during this time period, like we see what's happening, we see the resources being shared. I saw, she posted her little square or whatever, so you're aware of what's happening, and the fact that you did this during this time, it's not even like this was something that happened months before, a year before, a past experience that Sasha is sharing. This is happening in the middle of a civil rights movement. Lady, you really don't care. Like, your privilege is completely blinding you.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like she's highly aware of her privilege, because to say that I am going to go speak to brands, it's just like Amy Cooper when she was just like, I'm going to tell them that a black man, an
Mm-hmm.
African American man, has just attacked me. Like that, you're threatening them. You're telling them, what's going to happen if I do that. So, do whatever I'm saying. Same thing with Jessica. Well, I'm going to go speak to brands and let them know what you're up to. Like,
Yeah.
what was Sasha
Which
supposed to
is
do in that? Yeah. What was she supposed
it's
to do after
yeah.
that? Beg and say, no, please don't, because you're so powerful. Like, she's crazy. Jessica needs to go sit down. And, I don't think she's going to change from this, to be honest, because of her
I don't think so
background.
either.
Yeah, she's not gonna change, and, her losing the TV show and stuff like that, like, she's comes from, I'm pretty sure her background is wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
or, they're good financially, so she's not going to see anything in that realm, but I think it may help hurt her public image with people wanting to be associated with her in front of the cameras. Her invitation to events may decline a little bit. People may not want to invite her and her husband to, gatherings and stuff like that because they just don't want that public heat. And then
Yeah.
Meghan Markle, like, she didn't need this. And her name is being drug all through this. And it's like, this is supposed to be your bestie. You're biracial, you're light skinned. Now people are questioning, like, how are you friends with somebody like this?
Mhm. I don't know.
So
It's
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 a
a
hot
hot
mess.
mess. It's a hot mess all around. I don't think she'll change. I think that her inviting Sasha onto her Instagram was some type of
Oh
thinly
God.
veiled bullshit. And
She was
uh,
putting the work on Sasha to fix everything. That's the one thing that
literally,
people miss. She's like, "Well, I don't know how to fix this, or I don't want to fix this, so I'm gonna put it on you to come on my platform to do what? So I can sit here
to
and
do
talk crap
what?
about you? Like, what am I gonna do?" I was just like, "This, like, who is your PR team? Where are they? Did they let you go? I'm so confused."
Literally.
She was a mess. But that is the Sasha and Jessica story. The next thing that we saw is, if you guys watch reality TV, Bravo recently fired four castmates from Vanderpump Rules, which is a spinoff of Real Housewives Beverly Hills. Lisa Vanderpump's restaurant that she has. She has Sir, she has Pump, and she has Villa Rosa. And then the new Tom Tom with some of the cast members from Vanderpump Rules. So Stassi Schroeder, Kristen Doty, and I don't know what Max and Brett's last names are, but it's irrelevant because they were new castmates that nobody cared about. But all four of them got fired recently because Stassi and Kristen basically had an issue with a former black castmate named Faith. If you guys have watched the show, you would know that. So Faith's storyline comes in from her basically having a romantic or physical relationship. Basically, she slept with Jax, one of the OG characters, while he was in a relationship with his girlfriend Brittany, and that came out on the show. There was recording, whatever. I guess the cast either never liked her before or they didn't like her after that. So they wouldn't film with her, and it got to a point that Kristen and Stassi basically reported her to the police. So there was a missing, not a missing person, but there was a woman that they were looking for, I guess, in the LA area for theft and a bunch of other charges. And I guess she was a light skinned black woman. Black woman. Faith is a dark skinned black woman. And they thought it would be funny, I guess, to sit here and call into the police and say, "Hey, we found the lady that you guys are looking for. This is her information." Obviously, Faith, nothing happened with Faith where she got charged or whatever. It was a false report. But that's crazy. So Faith recently went on to IGTV a couple weeks ago and shared that. And I guess Stassi also confirmed this information on her podcast that she has, like, a very long time ago, the situation, and people didn't take it seriously back then. But with Faith going on IGTV and speaking about it in an interview, especially in this climate, people are like, wait, wow, that's wildly inappropriate. So you guys are using your white privilege to basically make a false report on this girl, and, like, she could have died in police custody. She could have gotten a charge and been in jail this whole time just waiting to fight her case. Like, just a series of things could have happened and they just did not think that through. And because of the backlash of it, Bravo was like, bye-bye. They just let them go. So they both lost their jobs on Bravo. I don't see them getting hired back, to be honest. Max and Brett, it recently came up a few weeks ago that, somebody on Twitter went back and looked at their old tweets of them using the N words and saying really negative things about Black people.
Mhm.
And Bravo was just like, in this climate, which is crazy because Bravo actually just recorded their Zoom reunions they've been doing, and they brought it up on there, and everybody was like, of course the whole cast is white. Everyone's like, "It's okay. We know you're not that person." And this is the one thing that really bothers me. It's just like, you're not the person that it affects, so you don't have the right to tell that person that it's okay or that we accept their
Literally.
apology. You can't accept a apology on the behalf of Black people. You're not Black. You don't experience these things. You don't know how it messes with us psychologically. Like, who are you? And I hate when they say, like, we know your heart. No, you don't. It's not in your body. Be quiet.
Li Absolutely, it's not in your body. You're absolutely right.
It's so frustrating. So on the reunion, they talked about it and clearly things were fine, but then everything that has transpired since, now Bravo wants to step up because they fired Kristen and Stassi, they fired Max and Brett too, which to be honest, I'm totally fine with all four of them going, but it's a hot mess. What do you think, girl?
Well, the thing is, I've never actually watched Vanderpump Rules. It's on my
What?
Hayu, so I will
Girl.
definitely be watching it after this. One of my friends like is on my Hayu account watching it right now, so I can't like
Ugh,
catch
don't
up
get
on
me
it.
started
Otherwise,
on Hey You. Do not get
oh,
me started on
oh
Hey You
my
and that ghetto app.
god.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
Anyways, so I've never watched Vanderpump Rules. I've also not been a big Housewives like religious watcher, so I only kind of know them like peripherally. But I am not surprised that it is a hot mess, like especially because Bravo is reality TV, so they literally cast people who are problematic in the first place.
100%.
So, but to literally go to the extent of using your privilege to call the police is disgusting.
So
I
disgusting.
can't even believe that. And it's so gross that they thought it would be like funny to do it because like literally she could have died. Like
Exactly.
like what do these people like they don't understand? Like I don't understand it. Like how are people so just blows my
I would
mind.
never make a false report about somebody. I would never do that
Never.
because this is the thing. What I've learned growing up is that you can always control how a problem starts, but you cannot control the outcome. It can spiral completely out of your hands, and you can't do anything to pick that back up. Like it's happened, things have transpired. There's nothing you can do about it at that point, You have to let it pan out the way it's going to. And these people just have no freaking clue when it comes to that. So since this has happened, Stassi and Kristen both made a statement.
I'm reading it
Stassi's
right now.
statement, girl, read it. Stassi's statement, I feel like was more swallowable, more
Mhm.
digestible. There's the word. It was more digestible. Kristen's was just like, it wasn't racially fused. That wasn't our intention. We truly thought it was her. But, either way, we're sorry. We should have been more sure. Whereas Stassi was like, I am ashamed that I did this. And she was a little bit more apologetic. Was it believable to me? No, I still wasn't believable because, again, as you mentioned earlier with the Jessica and Sasha situation, you have to look at what their actions were after the fact. And this happened a long time ago, like at least like a year or maybe a little bit more ago, this situation. And I remember Stassi was under fire because of some comments that she had made on her podcast.
Mhm.
Since then, she has spoke to people in the Black community who have, shared why her comments were problematic. And, she, I guess, learned something from that. We've been sharing a lot of resources online. After the whole incident with Faith, when it actually happened, she talked about it on her podcast also, and she was laughing and giggling about it. Like, girl, you didn't think it was a problem after it happened. And then during the civil rights movement, you're seeing all the information and resources we're sharing when we're talking about gaslighting, white privilege, when we're talking about microaggressions. At no point during any of these instances did you not reflect back to that situation with Faith and say, wow, like I did something horrible that falls in line with this. I should reach out to her. And then it's like, okay, you saw all these resources. You chose not to reflect then. But then Faith did her IGTV interview. It was all over social media. I'm sure you got tagged in a dozen of them.
Mhm.
You saw it. Not even then did you think it was appropriate to pick up your phone and say, Faith, I watched your interview. And, with everything happening right now, like, I'm sorry. I should have never done that. That is unacceptable. That is so terrible. And I'm going to do better. And I really wholeheartedly hope you forgive me. If you don't, I get it. But like, I really fucked up
Mhm.
even then, but you didn't. It wasn't until your PR company dropped you and you lost some money and some sponsorships out of it. It wasn't until Bravo then fired you that you got shook and then you made a statement on your social media. So as you said earlier, it's very performative because now you're just doing it so that to fix things, but you don't actually feel bad for what you did. And then Kristen, like, girl, nobody even cares about you and your statement was weak as hell.
Mhm. I feel like a lot of these girls, like, they're out here thinking, okay, like, we'll apologize and blah, 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 and like all
Mhm.
this shit. And I completely agree with you when they said, like, when you said if they actually were genuine and remorseful and like were actually disgusted with what they did, they would have made a prior apology before
Mhm.
all this came out and blah blah blah. And like in the comments, I'm seeing a lot of people being like, why did Faith wait 2.5 years to talk about this? And I feel like a lot of the time white people especially don't understand that when you are a minority and you're not in the societal position of power, when you
Mhm.
speak out against these things, like you stand to lose everything.
Exactly, it's so
Everything,
scary.
because the system is disproportionately weighted against you. Like
Mhm.
all of these people are now coming out about these things because we all feel safe enough and in
Mhm.
finally in a like a power balance, not even like a more power or whatever, because that's not the point. We finally feel like we're on track to being treated equally, so we can
And we're being
come
heard.
out and being heard, so we can come out and address these things that before, when the system was disproportionately against us, we couldn't say these things because it would literally ruin our lives, and we are not in the position to just hire a new PR team and everything will be fine.
Exactly. It's just it's so frustrating that it's frustrating because a lot of us normal people, not even public figures, a lot of us average just regular people, we experience these things on a day-to-day basis. And it's frustrating because we have to internalize it and be okay with it because this is just the way the world is. And as you said, we're finally at a point in the world where we're being heard and supported and the space is safer, that you come forward and again, people in their white privilege, as opposed to listening and taking in what's being said and then reflecting on your personal experiences on how you may have treated someone like this, you want to blame them. Like it's the victim shame and blaming. Like I'm just not down for it. And I'm happy a lot of these brands and organizations are making quick decisions like this and letting go of these people, but they also need to reflect internally into their business structure to sit here and look into this further to say like, hey, why didn't we do something about this when it first happened? Why didn't we take this seriously? You know, because again, as you said, it happened 2.5 years ago. There's been a lot of public things that have been put out there about it. Why are we not nipping this in the butt? If somebody came onto our platform and said something very negative about the LGBTQ plus community, sorry, um, it would be a wrap. So why are we not supporting all marginalized people like this?
Mhm.
It's
No,
a hot mess.
100%. It's a fucking hot mess. And I'm so happy, honestly, to see everything moving in the direction it is. Like, I'm happy to see these people fucking fired. I'm happy to
Mhm,
see all of their shit exposed. And
mhm.
I don't know how long they thought they could get away with being racist. Like, it's not like these white
Oh, they think they they think they can get along with it forever.
literally these like white people who are the supporters of these like problematic white people are always out here like, oh, like blah blah blah, grow and learn xyz, meh, meh, meh. And it's just like it's awful because it's these type of people that are allowing these people to feel comfortable in their shitty ways of
Mhm.
being racist.
Exactly, and that's what it is. People are scared to call people racist, and they don't realize that there's different levels of racism. It's not just calling
Literally.
someone the N-word. It's not just a hate crime of killing them. Like those are the extremes. But there are less extreme things that people do that makes them a racist. And I think we need to call it what it is. People are so scared to say that. And it's so funny now that I'm thinking about this. I remember in the comments of Sasha's IGTV, someone's like, sis, I'm a little frustrated that you just didn't call it for what it was, that the woman was being racist towards you. And
Hmm.
I had to comment, and she was still showing her support and love of Sasha, but I had to comment back to the girl and say, you know what? I can understand your frustration with her not just calling it what it is, but I think you also need to take into account that as Black people, we're very much conditioned to not come across aggressive, combative, and also to be mindful of the other person's feelings, even though they've done us wrong. And that's something that we have to go back and fix within ourselves. But throwing that at her isn't going to help the situation.
No,
At this
I
point we
yeah.
need to give her strength, but I think that is something that we also need to know ourselves, is that we need to just call it what it is. Like don't sugarcoat it, don't sit here and try to pacify what the situation and what's happened. Like call it what it is. You're being racist, or you are a racist. whatever, but it's wrong and enough is enough. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to part 1 of this conversation with Carly. Make sure you follow her on Instagram at YourGirlCarly on all social media platforms. And that is YOURGIRLKARLY. Also, make sure that you're following my page on Instagram, Tanisha.cherry, and the podcast page, Cherry Lounge Podcast. If you're on Twitter, go ahead and join in on the conversation also at Cherry Lounge Pod. And if you're listening right now, make sure that you take a little screenshot, share it on your stories, tag me and the podcast Instagram page, and I'll make sure to show you some love and repost it. Let me know what you guys think about what we're talking about. Share any call outs that you've seen publicly that have been very interesting to you, educational, or just inspiring and motivating. And also, let me know how you're doing right now. There's a lot that's happening, and I know it can be overwhelming and bring up some PTSD and anxiety in a lot of us who have experienced racism. So definitely hit me in the DMs and let's talk about it. Make sure you also check out the part 2 of this episode when you have time. Hopefully that's right now. Thank you so much, you guys, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.